Hey, what's going on, everybody? Stephen and Andrew back here for another fun and exciting podcast episode with our amazing co-host,
Annabelle.
Annabelle.
Yay.
Cool. So Annabelle says that she thinks that people want to hear about how our weekends went. So since we're recording this
We
on a
can talk
Monday,
about that as well.
I want to know.
we can share a little bit.
Perfect.
The weekend was busy.
Yeah.
We decluttered. We had a home organizer come to our house all day on Saturday with a team of 3 people, and they reorganized our entire basement storage area.
Well, that's fun.
They were actually really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Katie was a little bit like, okay, what's this deal all about? Like, I can do all of this stuff. And I was like, well, let's just try it. Let's make somebody else do the hard work. And it went really well.
Yeah.
Now we have a very organized basement, and we got rid of 4 carloads of stuff.
It's amazing how much you accumulate.
I know.
You guys haven't moved recently, so
Yeah, it's been
you
a lot.
didn't
Yeah,
get
it's been
your
like 10
chance
years
to
or
throw
whatever.
stuff away. I feel like that's the only time people ever get rid of
I know.
anything. Every time you move, you're like, why do I have a literal dump truck?
Well, the
of
funny
stuff
part
I
is
need
I don't
to
know about
throw
you,
away.
but like you just moved. The last time we
Mhm.
moved, I had all these good intentions of like, cool, we're going to take the time to go through everything before we move. And it never seems to happen that way. We end up kind of waiting a little bit too long, waiting till the last minute, and then we just throw a bunch of stuff in boxes. And then we end up moving stuff that we actually didn't even want to get rid of. And I was like,
Yep.
well, we'll deal with that one day.
Nope.
So we dealt with it.
That was our normal plan, except for this last one. I was like, nope. I think we literally had 2 dump trucks.
Trash
from
it all. Nice.
Trash furniture that you seem to collect in the basement that's broken, that you're like, one day I might buy the right bolt to fix this
Yeah.
piece of furniture.
Well, it's funny. I tie, me, everything ties into some sort of a lesson. But Brian, our coach, talks about this a lot. He's like, your mind is a lot like your house. And so a lot of times you put stuff in the unfinished part of the basement
Mhm.
thinking that it's gone, but really it's sitting there, as Andrew says all the time, living rent free in your home. And like every time I would walk into parts of the unfinished basement and like
God, I hate that
trip
thing.
over a box or something, I was like, damn it.
Why is this here?
I
I'll
know.
throw that away tomorrow when I'm doing the trash.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
tomorrow comes and magic happens. You never threw it away.
Yeah. So as I was sitting there watching this happen, I was like, cool. I was like, what is also living rent free in my mind that I maybe
Yeah.
haven't taken the time to look at and then just get rid of? So as she was doing all that and I was hanging out with Mila, I was sitting upstairs like, cool, like I can let go of that and I can get rid of that and get rid of that. So I was clearing out my mental basement at the same time.
That's awesome.
So that's what we did this weekend,
Nice.
Annabelle.
That
Yeah.
sounds very exciting.
Mine was not nearly as exciting.
What did you do?
We hung out with the kids, ran some errands, played outside, and that was about.
Was the weather good?
It was good.
Saturday was okay, and
So, oh yes, it was really cold on Saturday,
Yeah,
actually, but
and
Sunday was
then
pretty good.
Sunday
Yeah.
was pretty nice by the afternoon. We got some sun, a little windy, but the kids
We all
don't
went and
care.
hung out and let the kids ride around in little Jeeps and scooters and
Fun.
stuff like that on Sunday. It was
Yeah,
good.
it was good. Got the kids together.
Spring is coming in Colorado. Thank
Yep.
goodness.
Yeah,
I'm
and now
excited for it.
we're here and we're ready for a good week.
Yes.
Heck yeah. Cool. What should we talk about today, Annabelle?
Yeah, what's on the agenda?
I don't know. Last week you did a podcast with Blue Collar and kind of talked about like who to take advice from and like being careful of who to take advice from. And I thought that was
Cool.
a cool like lesson to learn. And I thought about it last week on my end. So maybe we could talk more about it. Here.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a very hot topic lately, at least in my mind, right? So, you can go through like for anybody that's ever done like personal development work, right? Like the really, really good personal development people will caution you, like, be really careful about what you let in your mind and who you listen to.
Yeah.
And it applies in the professional place just as much. And especially nowadays, like with the addition of social media and the amount of coaches and gurus and groups and all of this stuff that have shown up in the last 5 to 7 years, especially in the home service space, when you look at a lot of these people, they've never done what they're helping coach people to do. And the unfortunate part is I think most of them aren't even ill-willed. I think they truly think like, cool, I watched some program
I'm
about how to
helping.
use Facebook ads. So I'm going to create a program and then I'm going to sell it and that's going to be my business.
Mhm.
But nobody really pays attention to, cool, did they actually do what they're teaching me to do? And a lot of times they haven't. And don't get me wrong, there's some really, really good coaching groups out there that you should be listening to, but there's also a lot of just junk. And the downside, one of the biggest issues with it is that there's so much noise out there, right? And there's so many business owners that are like, man, if I could just find the thing that would help me kind of like grow the business and not be stressed and coach my team and do marketing, like they're desperately looking for something like that. And so all of that noise out there can get very confusing. So they sit up late at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night, stressed about money, stressed about the business, and they see some man or woman on Facebook saying like, "Oh man, did you know you can get $2 HVAC leads by doing this and this and this?" And that ignites hope, right? And then they try to keep going down that path and kind of like looking for the silver bullet. And so what we tell people, and I mean, I have to pay attention to this myself as well, is like be really careful what you're paying attention to and who you're listening to, because most of it, though probably not ill-intentioned, is just not good information. And specifically in the home service business, or really any service-based business, I mean, the business itself is very, very simple, but all of this information has overcomplicated it. Marketers kind of ruin everything, right? They create a problem, talk about that problem, and then magically they create a solution for it, when really none of that needed to be done a lot
Yeah.
of times. And so cautioning people to, especially in today's age, take a step back and take a deep breath and be like, cool, who am I really going to take advice from? Because a lot of like, even our clients at WIT who kind of get wrapped up in this, and they message us and they're like, oh man, I found out this thing, like we can do this and we'll get $2 Facebook leads or whatever it is. And we're like, no, 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 guys, like that just doesn't work. It's too good to be true. It sounds too good to be true. It is too good to be true. It's just false information.
Yep.
Go back to the basics and run the business. And most of our clients and most really good entrepreneurs, like, the answer. It's just easy to get caught up in this kind of whirlwind about like, what if that one magic thing works and makes it easier than it is today?
Yeah. Well, and I think fear is a big thing. It's funny. Go back 2 years, nobody bought into the silver bullet because, we're on the tail end of our little COVID economy, and not to beat the dead horse of the economy's down, and everyone knows that. They're tired of hearing it. But the truth is still, hey, I'm in panic mode. I don't know what else to do. So now I'm going to start trusting all of these what ifs where, what would you have done 2-3 years ago when the business wasn't as stressful or struggling, or, you had guys working, or people, there was the demand there in your market, or whatever it may be for the business. Most people are not thriving right now. They might be doing all right, but they're not doing 2 year ago, 3 year ago business. And so the panic ensues, and then it's like, oh God, we have to find something. It's like the answer might just be there isn't a something. And this is kind of that cyclical nature of the business. It's interesting to kind of watch home service not coming from it. And you probably have the very similar, you came from the banking world. Everything was, you didn't even get 3 year cycles.
Yeah.
You got like 3 month cycles before the bottom fell out and then spiked back up and bottom falls out. And, same with kind of aviation. It was like, we had kind of the standard 3 to 5 year peaks and valleys, but then, the wind blows from left to right instead of right to left one day, and all of a sudden the world ends for 2 months. And it's interesting to kind of watch home service, because I don't know that they, besides seasonality, I think it was always kind of status quo. And, COVID sort of lit it on fire. And then obviously the equity groups and coaching groups and everyone and their mother coming in trying to infuse it into, big business on, tradable business, if you will. Now everyone's like, we got to find the solution.
Yeah.
We're dying. Where it's like, would you have done that 10 years ago? No, you would have just said, man, it's just a bad year.
Yep.
We're just going to batten down the hatches, do what we can, call our clients, and know that if we make it through, it'll be better next year. And now it's like, no, it's been terrible for a month. We've had a down month. What do we do?
Yeah. Yep.
And, no business operates that way. And so I think it's really easy to get kind of sold right now on all these shiny what ifs.
Well, the other part, think about it. Like, why do most entrepreneurs start a business, right? They start a business because they want more freedom, more time freedom, and more money freedom.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. And so as an entrepreneur, you have to ask yourself now, like, are you getting lost and looking for those magic bullets and looking for those numbers and doing the whole, comparison is the thief of joy thing? Like, what if you were able to get back to a place where the business was a little bit fun again?
Yeah.
And that will end up creating a lot more time and financial freedom. Like, stop comparing yourself to these giant companies that, through COVID scaled from 1 million to 10 million in 3 years, but look at them now. Some of them are still doing it and some of them are still making it, but most of them, their margins were so small or negative that now they're screwed. And don't compare yourself again to somebody that you don't want to be like you don't know that person's life intimately. Like, it could be pretty terrible. So make sure you get to know somebody's intimate life. Like, how's their relationship with their family? How's their relationship with their kid? Like, are they divorced 3 times? Are they any fun to actually be around?
Well, and also if you're even just on the business side, you don't know. I mean, we got to see it kind of across the board, big breath, where most people are in kind of their siloed groups. But, as an agency, we take a little bit different approach, and we want to know the ins and outs of the business, kind of truly a holistic approach, not even a marketing, but just looking at what works and what doesn't. And part of that is understanding what's the end goal, and I think a lot of these groups of people they were like, well, my buddy's doing X. Well, your buddy might be making a 3 or 6% margin because he's spent the last 2 years lining up a huge buyout, so he doesn't care.
Yeah.
Where you want to pass it down to your kids and are paying your bills off of it and surviving, and you need a double-digit margin in there, and you're sitting there going, well, he's killing it. And I mean, that happens all the time in all businesses. I think this industry specifically, home service, is really getting its wave of kind of all of this. I mean, I know it's done it in its own ways along the way, but I think most recently with all this infusion of cash and capital and all these different people coming in, it's really easy. And we talk about that with clients all the time of like, cool, are you trying to sell in 2 years? Well, sweet. Maybe have a 14% marketing budget. Oh, you want to leave it to your kids and you don't need rapid growth. You just want good margins. Cool. Maybe cut that number in half and, find the solution that works for you. So I mean, on the happiness component and family component, but also what's the end goal? It's really easy to just look at the company and be like, they're everywhere. Well, yeah, they're paying $300,000 a month to be everywhere because they know in 18 months they're selling.
Yep.
So
I forget who said it, but it's kind of a common theme of like, run your own race or drive your own race. It's a common theme in racing, right? Like, racers that are competing at the top level, they drive their own race.
Yeah,
and
racing
they don't
themselves.
they don't worry as much about what everybody else is doing and exactly where they are and stuff like that. It's all of that is divided attention and divided focus. And when you put your focus 100% into what you're doing, clearly pay attention to what's going on in the market and stuff like that. But you put 99% of your energy and attention into your business and knowing where you want it to go, like Andrew's saying, you're good.
Yeah.
You're going to grow so much faster than anybody else. It's unbelievable. All of that divided attention is a total killer.
Yep.
And I mean, we're even guilty of it sometimes. I mean, like, even at WIT right now, we're kind of like, oh yeah, cool. Like, we should have, some good growth years. Like, great, let's figure out what we're going to do for marketing and kind of ignore everything else. Like, how do we just talk to people in the industry about our brand and how we can serve clients, and then ignore everything
Ignore the
else.
money component.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's why I hate budgets. You know me. I can't stand a budgeted out monthly, quarterly game plan. I just don't think it's realistic. I think you should have benchmarks. I think
Yep.
you should have optics on where you want to end up. But you're going to have a down month. And we've talked to a couple clients about this where it's like, it's great to have monthly plan, but every month you're sitting there going, God, 7% short this month. I must be failing. Something's broken. It's like, well, no, back up. You still increased 20%. You just wanted to increase 27%. So like, why are we upset? Yeah, it wasn't exactly how you want it, but maybe you have a 45% month where you
Yep.
really kill it and it offsets that. And so I think we get so bogged down in all of that. And kind of back to the original topic is it's easy when everyone's poking holes, like Steven said, creating the problem, showing you a problem that doesn't likely exist. Or I shouldn't even say they don't exist. They don't actually matter. You know?
There you go.
You're
The problem exists
like-
because somebody created it.
Yeah. Or it's always been there, but
yeah.
does it actually affect your day to day? And so it's really easy to be like, shit, I never even thought about that. Great.
Yeah.
Here we are. That's been there for 15 years and I never even thought about it. Now I need to solve it. And it's like, whoa, you grew a $10 million company in 15 years with that problem always existing. Why
Yeah.
is it a problem just now? You know?
Yeah.
But somebody's always there to poke holes. It's like we talk about with our agency stuff. Even like we tell every client, yeah, you could give me a WIT website and I could find 50 things I would do
Yep.
different. But do they actually affect the end result in a way where they're worth fixing? You know.
Nope.
So keeping that in mind when you're talking to vendors, going to trade shows, and trade shows seem to always be the hot topic for everyone. You know, go and get chatting with a bunch of vendors and everyone tells you how you can do it better. And if you just paid me, $3.99 a month, you would, all your problems would be solved. And a year later, you're sitting there going, sweet, I spent $50,000 on shit I didn't need. And
divided attention.
Now I'm right where I was. Well, it's funny you bring up like the racing thing because we've been finishing the season of Drive to Survive or whatever. And just on like the last couple episodes, I noticed how much they talk about their lap times. I mean, they'll let them know, hey, you're, 0.8 seconds behind the guy in front of you or whatever, to give some context. Hey, so-and-so's, 1.9 seconds behind you. But all they talk about is, hey, give us a lap like you just gave us. Your last lap time was, 1:34. Just do that again and you'll win. You're 0.4 of a second ahead of the leader. So statistically speaking, if you can just keep driving like that, you'll pass everyone else because you're going faster than them. So they don't even talk about what it takes to get 3 positions up. They just talk about your lap time.
Yep.
So, keeping that in mind when you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed in this world right now.
Well, and think how that ties into like employees, right? So we've seen it happen all the time where like entrepreneurs or the business owner will try to tell their rock star employees everything that's going on at the business because then they think that they're going to end up doing better. But it's our job as leaders and owners of the company to identify kind of who our A players are, create the most narrow lane possible for them, and then support them and tell them, hey, you're on track or off track, and kind of stay out of their way. How many times have we seen it when we go into a business and they have this like A player salesperson or A player service manager or something like that, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm going to promote him to like GM, and then they just fail miserably because they just assume that's the next step.
Yep.
So being conscious in the business of finding your A players and giving them kind of the most narrow lane possible based on what they want and where their skills are. And then like the driver, you're just feeding them just a little bit of information and you're kind of getting out of their way and letting them do the thing that they're absolutely amazing at.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. Like one of the races, it was like Lando Norris or something like that, was super. He was like, where is, Verstappen at? And they were like, it doesn't matter, because he was like 4 positions back. So they were just like, that's unnecessary information we don't need to talk about right now. And like the guy's just like, nah, never mind.
Yeah.
Look over here, buddy. Come
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
Shiny object over here.
Yeah.
You know, let's win the race. Don't worry about that. You know, and so kind of keeping people focused and on track. And also remembering when you bring in all these shiny objects and coaches, and every time you do that, there's so much speculation going on with staff members. You know, a lot of times it's like, hey, it might actually be a really good product. But if you did it kind of impulsively, haphazardly, you just went to a trade show, met a guy, and all of a sudden changed everything and signed up for some new thing because it's going to be God's gift, and you didn't tell the team, and then you're like, hey, this is, Kyle.
Mm-hmm.
He's here to uproot this whole company. The team's like, what the hell is going on? Like, sweet, if they're making decisions impulsively like that, then the company must not be doing well. People aren't stupid. And I think, it's always funny when we get to talk with or do coaching with business owners and they're like, well, the staff's not aware of any of this. And it's like, they're probably more aware of it than you are.
Yeah.
They're actually watching you spiral out of control while you think you're
you think you're
done.
keeping it together.
Yeah.
Nobody will know I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
No, pretty sure everybody knows that
No,
you're losing your mind.
And then they start to act weird, and then you're like, see, I knew something's up. They're
Yeah.
acting weird, and it's like, no, they're just responding to what you're giving them.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, be mindful of who you do business with, and especially, the companies that are 5, 6, 7 years old, it makes sense. Fine. You're testing it out. You gotta try things to realize they don't work. You gotta bounce agencies. You gotta, whatever your feeling is. But how many 5 or 7 year old companies do we talk to that have been with 3 coaching groups? Trying to find the one that fits them. Like, cool, you got to do that. But when we talk to these 40, 50-year-old companies, it's like, guys, you've been in business, half a century.
You're not actually missing
what are you
anything.
freaking out about? Like there isn't some shiny new thing you missed. It's okay. Just deep breath.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a good place to kind of like close this topic off or close like this conversation out. And I mean, what I would tell people that are listening is you're probably a lot smarter than you give yourself credit for. And go back and remember why you started the business in the first place. To have a little bit of fun, to have a little bit of freedom, like to make a little bit of money. But I think a lot of people forget that the fun and the enjoyment piece has to come before the making money piece. Like when you're having fun and enjoying it and empowering your team and giving back to the community and like living a better life, the money will come 10 times faster when that happens. How many of us have gone to a trade show or just followed these bigger companies, even 20, 30, 40 million, and you meet them and they're just like the nicest people in the world. And you're like, well, what are you guys doing different? They're like, nothing, man. We're just doing a good job and treating our team right and being involved in the community. And yeah, we go and learn 1 or 2 things here, but we just kind of keep having fun and doing a good job. And so I would encourage you guys to remember, like, you know the answer a majority of the time. I mean, I forget who it was. Andrew and I were kind of helping this one potential client along, and they were making a challenging decision. And I just asked her, I said, do you already know the answer to this question that she was trying to figure out? And she's like, oh yeah, I do. And she'd been battling with it for months. And so chances are the answer. It's just with all of that external noise, sometimes it's hard to hear that internal intuition and stuff like that. And then, yeah, I mean, just to go back to the goals setting thing, I think that be cautious about how specific you are with numbers. I spent a decade of my life probably trying to do that. Like I always had these big annual goals and like, fitness goals and these goals. And like, as soon as I kind of let those go, they became, the results became much, much better. And so be careful. If you set a goal and you work towards it, you might hit that goal. But the downside to that is you put so much pressure on yourself that it wasn't a good thing that you miss the opportunity to have something way, way bigger. And that's one of the things that drives me nuts about some of the like goal setting, whatever, out in the world is these people set these big goals and they hit them, but then you look at the rest of their life and you're like,
Yeah, they
Dude,
sacrificed everything
you're
to get there.
miserable. And even though maybe you hit 50 million, if they hadn't have been so strict on that and they would have kind of let it be a little more, they probably would have hit 150.
Yeah. Or what if you hit 40 and you did it enjoyably?
Yeah, totally.
Like, cool. I know you don't want to do an extra year, but a year's amount of time is nothing.
Yeah.
You know.